Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Fallbrook Union Elementary School District. It's 6 p.m. and I call our meeting to order. Let us start with the flag salute. Dr. Houston, would you like to lead us today?
Please, everyone, please rise. We'll face the flag, put our right hand on our heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is approving the minutes of our October 3rd regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? I'll make a motion. Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Right. Any changes, comments, corrections? All right, let's start with Mrs. Liebes. Aye. Lopez. Aye. Mr. Favela.
Aye.
Mrs. Lieber.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The minutes are approved. Prior to going into the community relations portion of our meeting, I just wanted to report on the fact that the governing board has recently received two letters, one from Trustee Lieber and the other from Sandra Forrest, raising Brown Act compliance concerns following closed sessions held on September 12th and 15, 2022. As board president and as a member of the Fallbrook community, I believe that zealous compliance with Brown Act requirements is one of the board's most fundamental and important responsibilities. The letters have been shared with the board's legal counsel for review, analysis, and response within 30 days, which is what is required by law. I am confident that our closed session agendas and practice complied with the Brown Act, but I stand ready to take any and all necessary and appropriate corrective action to ensure that our board's compliance with the Brown Act. I look forward to receiving our legal counsel's written responses to the letters and sharing those responses with Trustee Lieber and Ms. Forrest. Thank you. And so now we can move to the community relations portion of our meeting. And I turn this over to our board clerk, Mrs. Lopez.
Okay, first, I just want to remind everybody that you have 3 minutes unless you have given your time to someone else. So if we have to cut you off, I apologize, but you have your 3 minutes, okay? First up will be Sandra Forrest, and she is speaking on sharing public information.
Oh, that's handy. I'm here tonight. I really didn't plan to speak, but my topic is a little different because I'm going to talk about myself. 2.5 years ago, I read in the Fallbrook Village News about a letter that someone had sent, not even on the board, about the superintendent's salary. And the fact that the superintendent at that time, January of 2020, this is before COVID, was already making $60,000 over what most people make in that position. And I thought, $60,000? I mean, I've lived on a lot less than that for a long time. And I thought, you know, that's a lot of, that's 2 half-time aides in the classroom. So anyway, I was shocked to read that. And then I also noticed that at the end of this person's letter, they even said, I would ask that superintendent give our students a break and follow Bonso Unified's superintendent and refuse the bonus. I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. So time passes by. I'm retired, living the good life, having fun. And I saw some things on the internet, one of which was Candy's commercial for speaking and holding workshops and all that. And that the contact person was her personal assistant, Stephanie Weaver at FUESD, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I don't have a personal travel agent, but I guess somebody else does. So a couple weeks ago, even last year, there were articles put out, and I thought, I'm going to put on Facebook. People don't even know what's going on. I thought, what the heck? Because I would share with friends and say, are you aware? And they'd say, no. So I put it on Facebook and I said, contact the board. Then a week ago, I saw on Nextdoor someone else put up a notice to vote for them. So I put out a note myself, and I'm just going to read it. If anyone is, because some people wonder why I do this. If anyone is concerned about the compensation of Candace Singh, the FUESD superintendent, please let your questions or comments be heard. The board president announced October 3rd that Singh will be leaving, but nobody knows when, to where, or why. Depending on the reason for her departure, she stands to get up to $1 million to leave. Her contract needs to be renegotiated. She doesn't deserve that kind of money. That is real money. That is, and I was in an Angel Shop board meeting one time after COVID. And they were asked, the Potter parents were asking for money for supplies for masks and all. And I referred back to that letter I'd read about, she's getting all this money and yet the kids need this kind of stuff. And I thought, this doesn't compute.
I'm sorry, Ms. Forrest, your time is up.
Thank you.
Apologize.
So that's why I've stayed on this. Everything is public. Not running for anything.
Next up, we have Michael Summers. Speaking on the Summers, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Michael Summers, I apologize. Speaking on the superintendent. Salary. Looks like a name.
I have two parts. Do I have to speak into this? Oh, that's just really, okay.
And for the
fir-
people watching online.
Okay, first of all, it is a letter from Bruce and Jeannie Summers, and there's no relation. But it concerns Candace Singh's, is that pronounced Singe? Singh? Okay, her departure. Dear members of the board, I am a former employee of the elementary district from 1981 and retired in 1999. I also have lived in Fallbrook since, so I have witnessed firsthand many superintendents. I'm afraid that I feel that Mrs. Singh's singularity has cost the district far too much money and needs to leave gracefully. The money spent on her behalf should have been allocated toward the students' needs at this critical time in education. The high salary she has managed to receive is ridiculous considering the size of our district. Then there are the law settlements the district has made to pay under her watch, and now we have the present one. Therefore, I think we need to say goodbye to Mrs. Singh, with no further financial settlements, and wish her good luck in the future she has chosen to take. Sincerely, Bruce and Jeannie Summers. Okay, now according to this, in the superintendent's first year from the $1.3 million lawsuit payout from the district due to her wrongful termination of an employee, enough is enough. And I say that if it's a voluntary resignation, then that she should leave free and clear without any monetary retribution from the board. I mean, to me, that doesn't make sense. So if there is a vote that comes up where you pay her a payout, I am totally against it. And there are many people that are totally against it, especially if she resigned voluntarily. So thank you for listening.
Next, we have Leticia Stamos, and I believe that Tracy McDaniel has given you her time.
Tracy is not here, but I wanted to know if I could read hers in addition to mine. If I can't, then I'll only read mine. Yeah.
And the direction. No.
I'll read mine. Okay.
And you all received this, but I'm reading it here at the meeting so that it will be public knowledge. My question is concerning the negotiations, quote unquote. I know that confidential issues are being discussed, but what negotiations are taking place? Maybe the anticipated litigation at the end of the agenda will answer that question. Nevertheless, the superintendent is resigning in order to move on to the next phase of her career, as we were told. It's a voluntary early termination of her contract, which she apparently initiated per her contract. According to her contract, the district is only liable for salary and other payments due only for that portion of the agreement for which services were actually rendered. Therefore, there should be no negotiation unless she wants to trade her due salary for extended health coverage or something along those lines, or if she wants her due salary to pay the district back for services the district staff rendered to her for her private consulting firm. She gave her notice, it was accepted. The contract is here for each party. The public, which is the district, has gotten the short end of the stick in this contract as far as the clauses in that contract have been all in the superintendent's favor. Now we, the public, must be afforded what is due to the district through that contract, and that is a speedy and responsible separation. You all know your responsibilities and obligations to this district. Buying her out or awarding her more than what is required by law is unacceptable. You are to represent this community, and no one in Fallbrook wants you to give Dr. Singh $1 more than her contract requires. The former board of the high school district lost all credibility when they bought out their former superintendent. It was a complete mishandling of district funds, as this will be if you do as well. I'm also concerned about the district's legal counsel that is handling the negotiations. I said this before, and I will say it again. I do not believe that the legal advice that the board receives is always in the best interest of this public. Is this the same counsel that negotiated and advised the board to sign this contract in the first place? If so, that should be a red flag waving in front of your faces. The district deserves counsel that is working for the good of the district and only for the district. You are not here to play nice. You're here to fight for every dollar and every resource that our students have coming to them. Dr. Singh has been paid well for the job she's done, and she's been given enough of the district's resources. There should be no negotiations. Thank you.
That's all we have.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lopez. And now we move to reports from the board. Why don't we, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start.
You didn't get to last board meeting,
I know. So, and now I can talk about just this amazing tour at Fallbrook STEM Academy. For those of you who don't know, Fallbrook STEM Academy is across the street from the post office. And we have some of the most amazing kids in Fallbrook at this school, and having now gone through their classrooms with thanks to their principal, Anna Arias, and assistant principal, Monica Enriquez, Dr. Husing and Cindy Martin, who took Susan and I. We got to see everything from transitional kindergarten all the way to the highest grade levels. And first impression I had was how engaged all the kids were in their classrooms and how different each grade level and each classroom was from the other. The first one we went to was transitional kindergarten. So those are the really teeny ones, right? And they were all sitting at their little tables, and the teacher was working with a group. And as I went around to each of the groups, and I asked the children there what their names were, I realized that they weren't answering. And I thought, I wasn't wearing anything like really that would make you nervous, anything fancy. And so I tried something and I said, ¿Cómo se llama usted? Me llama Susana. And their face, first little boy, Francisco, his face lit up. And then he told me his name was Francisco. So I realized that the issue was they were still learning English. So I stopped by the teacher's desk as I was leaving and I said, how many children do you have in your class? She said 18. And I said, and how many English language learners do you have? He said 14. And that tells a story about Fallbrook Elementary School District, which is we have a lot of amazing kids who have different challenges. And thanks to teachers, some of whom I see in the back row today, thanks to teachers and staff, there's a lot of attention paid to each child and what their needs are. We saw the demonstration of Norton Billingsley.
Orton Gillingham.
Well, see, Orton Gillingham, it wasn't on the test, Orton Gillingham, which is a foundational way of teaching children sounds. So we saw a teacher working with a group of 4 or 5 students, and they learned ah and bet and see, and they went through the whole alphabet. And then they started sounding out words, which is exactly how you start to figure out what words mean. So long way of saying, I'm just so grateful I had the chance to see our kids and our teachers in action. It was a particularly insightful tour. And I have just never been more proud of this. So that's my. Would you like to go next?
Yeah, I was also able to visit the STEM Academy and Senora Arias, my kids had her in dual, so I still think of her, Senora Arias and Mr. Enriquez are an amazing team. They're just a beautiful team there. And it was great to hear about their community engagement, and I think most of us heard about how they did an HR tent at their back to school night, which was a brilliant idea. And I know you're replicating that at other school sites. They had other community organizations there. They do a weekly video for families. And we got to see one that they had produced, and then they had some parents offer to sort of jazz up their videos, and they're really awesome. I think it was a vast improvement. And then seeing like neighborhood volunteers in the classroom, volunteers that didn't have kids in schools, they just came to help the kids read, and that was really nice to see. And I'd love to help them reach out to some of our local service organizations to find more of those kind of volunteers. And then the reading intervention. The other really nice thing was that we were able to see some of their issues that they're seeing facilities wise on campus. And so I think that's going to help inform as we do our facilities master plan, some of the things that we could address and improve safety wise on campus. So that was the highlight of my last couple of weeks.
Excuse me. I was not able to attend STEM. It sounded like it was awesome. We have the Rally for Children fundraiser is coming up this Thursday. If any of you are going, thank you so much for participating in that. I think it's going to be a great event, and it again is our one fundraiser to raise the money for Arts in the Park for all the kids that we do in the spring. I will also be participating in the Harvest Festival, which is on Sunday with Rally for Children. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. I'm also looking forward to Fraser Fall Festival. I volunteered to man a booth over there. So I'm looking forward to making crafts with the kids there and doing some outdoor activities in November with Mrs. Levis. So lots of things coming up.
Right. Mr. Favela.
All right, well, unfortunately, I couldn't attend the school site visit. I have class Tuesday morning, so it doesn't work out for me. But it sounds like it went great. So I've been taking class. Sorry, I'm attending UCSD. I'm taking a Chicanos in Education course. It's really outlined the history of education for Latino and migrant students. It's a very interesting course. Really helps me see how complex it's been to service this population. But it really comes down to equity and providing resources, right? When there's resources and equity involved, students succeed. And when there's a push to not distribute resources, students don't succeed. So it's a very interesting class. Besides that, I had a chance to attend my children's parent-teacher conference. I'm glad to see the co-teaching there. So I had a chance to meet with 2 teachers that were attending to my daughter. So really excited to see how that's working out and the extra attention that they're getting from that system. Finally, I did mention last meeting that Sunday, October 30th will be the Dia de Muertos event at the cemetery. I realized I didn't mention the location or the time or anything else. So I wanted to put another mention there. It will be Sunday, October 30th, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. There will be food. We'll have free food there for folks who attend. we invite folks to bring something to share as well. And to bring a photocopy of your loved one, we're gonna have a community altar. So if you don't have someone at the cemetery, you're able to still honor them at the community altar. I have extra flyers here. If anybody wants to pick some up after the meeting, you're welcome to, and we hope to see you all there.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mrs. Libis.
Yes,
Lieber, sorry.
that's all right. I also was not able to attend. Tuesday is my busiest day with back-to-back meetings because I do still work full-time. And I do recommend that since both Ricardo and I, Mr. Favela and I can now not attend a single Tuesday, that we consider moving our site visits because everyone is set on Tuesday. And both of us have full-time commitments that day that aren't movable. But my quick report, because I would love to have seen what you guys saw, and hopefully maybe we can go on another day and catch that, but it's a burden to the staff to have us go probably multiple times, so it'd be nice to consider moving it. I just wanted to also point out that two events there for adults, for the adults of our children in our schools, there are two opportunities to take ESL classes in person again, which I know because of COVID, we lost that opportunity, and it's just too bad because these parents are hungry. If you look through the DLAC and ELAC requests that came out of those district-wide meetings, the number one request was ESL classes for them. So I have brought also flyers. Palomar has, as you know, a campus off-site on the other side of the freeway, but there is a class here in town that is at St. John's Episcopal Church. It's Monday through Thursday, 9 to 11:20, and it's what we call open enrollment, meaning you can start anytime. It's a 16-week class. They're about 8 weeks into it, but it doesn't matter. This is a brilliant teacher and she can incorporate anybody. So those of you who have parents that might be interested, you can take maybe a photograph of this flyer. And then the food pantry has made a big commitment to educating in many regards our parents. And they've even gone to the trouble to get a bus stop rerouted to their location, which is on Brandon and Alvarado. And they asked me to help them begin an ESL class there because I used to teach ESL for Palomar. And they have a class in the evening. So we now have day classes for those that cannot attend in the evening, and evening classes for those who cannot attend in the day. It's 6:30 to 8. Again, it's open enrollment, a 16-week class. And there are no charges for either of these classes. The textbooks, everything are provided for free. So that is the only other thing I wanted to mention is I'm on the advisory council for Palomar, and they're getting ready to build a fabulous permanent structure. And on the 20th at 1, they're having open to the community opportunity to hear about the architectural design. So I'll be attending, but if any of you are interested in attending, if you'll let me know, I'll get you all this information so you could attend as well. The more community that comes, the better we'll get the buildings that we want, the structures we want. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do we have a report from the superintendent today?
No,
Moving to business services, we have an action item. It's resolution -7-22/23, and it's requesting a temporary transfer of funds. Just a little bit of explanation on that for those who may not know. California law requires that the treasurer of the county of San Diego make a temporary transfer of funds to school districts as needed. This temporary transfer requires a resolution to be adopted by the governing board. With substantive changes in the county's property tax apportionment schedule, the San Diego County Office of Education is recommending this as a precautionary measure to address potential cash flow timing issues. So it's County Board of Education recommending that this board and other school boards take such action, just in case. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Thank you for the background information
You're
that we
welcome.
received. I appreciate it. It is kind of out of the ordinary. We haven't done this before that I know of in the 4 years I've been on the board, so.
Good. All right, let's take a vote. Mrs. Lieber,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mrs. Lopez.
Aye.
Mrs. Libis. And I vote aye as well. The motion passes. We have two action items in HR. And these follow the information items from the last meeting. And the first is the initial proposal to Fallbrook Elementary Teachers Association from the district. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I move to approve.
Thank you. And do I have a second? Second. Do I have any questions or comments? All right, let's start. Mrs. Lieber,
Aye.
Mr. Cabela,
Aye.
Mrs. Lopez. Aye. And Mrs. Libis. Aye. I vote aye as well. Motion carries. And the second one is the district's initial proposal to California School Employees Association. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Mrs. Lieber,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mrs. Lopez.
Aye.
Mrs. Libis.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Moving to educational services, 2 information items. Any comments or questions about either of those 2 items? Now we're to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
The Williams complaint.
Oh, I missed that one. Sorry. You're right.
Oh,
Information.
Yeah, that's
It's
an
information.
information.
I
item.
know, but
Right. That-
You have a
I
question, Beth?
thought I had both of them, but
sorry,
that's
maybe you
okay.
did.
Any questions or comments about the Williams complaint? Okay. Let's see, maybe I can explain what that is.
So I just clarify that it's a Williams complaint report. It's not a
Report, not an
complaint.
actual
I know, I actually read the item and I thought, we get a complaint
I don't
on
think we've
Williams?
ever had a
Because the
complaint.
Williams Act is all about ensuring that our children have all the textbooks and school supplies they need. And I thought, that's not an issue here. So yes, it's just saying that there was no complaint. We had all the items. So those are 2 info items. And so for the consent agenda, I would like a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any comments, questions?
I do just still have a comment about all of these Apple Mac Airs that we're giving away, or not giving away, that we're getting rid of. You know, I know that they're 8 to 10 years old, and I know that they don't run on current software. But I still am concerned that there could be families that could benefit by these, the ones that don't have broken screens and the ones that are still functioning, because
Mrs. Liebert, let me just ask you a question. Since this is on the consent agenda, did
Yes.
you want to propose that it be taken off? the
yes, why
consent?
don't we just take it off?
Okay, so
Thank you.
let us take that item off the consent agenda for now. That's number 6. And let's just incorporate the first 5 through commercial warrants. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna need another motion since we've changed the consent agenda.
I move to change it and to move that one off.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. All righty. Do we have anything else? So now we can actually take a vote. Mrs. Libis.
Aye.
Mrs. Lopez.
Aye.
Mr. Favela.
Aye.
Mrs. Lieber.
Aye.
And the consent agenda passes. So separately, we will have a discussion of the district surplus.
Mhm.
I think your question might have been answered by Mr. Fell, but perhaps we should hear that answer so that those who are here
Mhm.
can understand what the issue is.
Mhm.
I don't have my notes from that.
I can summarize it, and I guess, Mr. Fell, I'm not questioning you, I'm just questioning the fact that Mr. Fell said they're actually too old, that they don't run on the current software, but the reason I'm questioning whether or not, you know, my husband always avoids adding new software, he loves staying with this 10-year-old software. So it's just, I just want to make sure we've thoroughly we've looked at it to see whether even running on old software, there might be families that are newcomers to our school that might benefit from having a computer that they own, that the family owns, not that the child brings home. They have to be somewhat protected, but that the family owns, that they could maybe apply for jobs through. I mean, if it connects to the internet, they can benefit by it. So it doesn't have to necessarily have the latest and greatest, especially our newcomers families. That's what I know, that most of this probably should be gotten rid of, but if there's anything that could be salvaged, I just see that, you know, there might be an advantage to our needy families.
Well, I think that we do that. I mean,
We do.
We've done that in the past, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that if the computers are appropriate for that kind of use, then they will be. I mean, yeah.
Say my concern about it.
I'm still using the Mac computer that's about almost 10 years old.
Me too.
As as long as it doesn't have a cracked screen, my battery's almost gone, but it's kicking.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth looking into.
May I respond?
What's that?
Just procedurally, they need to be declared surplus before we can go through the process of giving them away to our own families. So this process of declaring the property as surplus needs to happen before we can do that. So if the wish is to discuss a process of what we actually do with them, they still need to be declared surplus as no longer usable in the district to get them out of the district's inventory. And then what happens with them after that?
That wasn't explained.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to
I
make sure.
appreciate that explanation, but that makes sense. So this is the first step of a process, so they will be evaluated. Thank you.
Are we interpreting that correctly, Mr. Fell? So if this is approved, there is one final step to determine if anything that's there is in fact usable. Okay. With that, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, well, let's take a vote. Mrs. Libis. Aye. Mrs. Lopez. Aye. Mr. Favela.
aye.
Mrs. Lieber.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. Motion carries. All right, that takes us to our closed session. So next we have item 8 on this evening's closed session agenda. As required by the Brown Act, I know that there's been a lot of concern about Brown Act and procedures, so we want to be sure we are complying. So as required by the Brown Act, I'm providing the following information regarding this closed session agenda item. So you can have a little bit more information, as much as we can provide within the confines of the law and the Brown Act. A statement regarding potential litigation related to harassment and retaliation by a board member against the superintendent was made outside an open and public meeting on a specific matter within the responsibility of the Board of Education. A public official made a contemporaneous record of the statement. This matter will be discussed in closed session with legal counsel. Also, before the board goes into closed session, I feel it's important to once again explain that the board is and will be strictly adhering to all provisions and requirements of the Brown Act. This includes the confidentiality of closed session discussions, which will be and must be strictly adhered to by each and every member of this board. With our acknowledgement here and now, we, the members of this board, commit to maintaining that confidentiality, and each member agrees that the board should and will enforce the provisions of the Brown Act here and outside this public meeting. Lastly, as mentioned at the October 3rd, 2022 board meeting, and I will mention it again here today, the board's legal counsel is involved in direct negotiations with Dr. Singh's legal counsel regarding Dr. Singh's claims. Neither I nor any board member will compromise those negotiations or a possible leadership transition by making further comments. Thank you. And with that, we adjourn into closed session at 6:35. Thank you. Worries. Thank you. It is 8:30 PM and we are returning from closed session and we are now reconvening into open session. There was no action taken in closed session. We are adjourning this meeting at 8:31. Thank you.